Hey folks, it's me, Frederik from the FWX podcast. I'd like to talk about another movie that has come out a while back, and that is this one, Novocaine, and that's a caption with it, no pain. And this is the lead actor for this movie, Jack Quaid, son of Dennis Quaid. And I'm gonna talk to you about this one, about Novocaine, and to give you a bit more insight. And we'll go over the story as well. But first of all, I want to say that this is part of my thriller season series about action movies from the past couple of months. That's from the fall of 2024 up until summer, early summer 2025, potentially going into the summer of 2025, depending on what you consider the blockbusters to be part of this. Depending on if I see those summer blockbusters as part of it, because they have a lot of action thriller involved with spies and corruption and crime and police and stuff like dictators and those kinds of things. So, I'm gonna talk to you about Novocaine. Here's another disclaimer, of course. I'm gonna be reading off the screen, so in that case, my face and the screen is gonna get brighter. I'm gonna get a bit brighter because of it. And of course, as always, I will be flubbing words. That will definitely happen. I'm also gonna swear. That's as good as going to happen. And okay, we'll start right now with Novocaine, with this story. And so the movie is about a guy named Nathan Kane. This guy. And he is a mild-mannered introvert who works as an assistant manager at a trust credit union in San Diego. And right off the bat, I want to say this is a good start for a movie, because, especially in America, because usually the big cities that are chosen for these kinds of setups are places like Chicago or New York or Washington D.C. So it's nice to see, and LA too, of course. So it's nice to see a different place like that. Oh, and also add Atlanta to that list too. So your big cities are kind of like the ideal kind of setting for this sort of movie. Yeah. And like, and of course it's a Western movie once again. So we have mostly, yeah, well, let's be honest, white actors. We have occasionally people from other parts of America or that live in those parts because San Diego is part of California, and that is one giant big melting pot, just like the rest of America is a giant big melting pot. That's that for now. Okay. I'm not gonna get too political. I'll try my best not to get too more political than that. Okay. So Nathan is an assistant manager at a trust credit union in San Diego, and he has something that he has to deal with. It is called CIPA, which stands for congenital insensitivity to pain with anhidrosis. So that basically means that he does not feel any pain. Kind of like a superhero power. He has a coworker, Sherry Margrave, that is interested in him on a romantic level, but he hesitant because of his condition and his inexperience with women. And she kind of pushes him to meet her at her level. And he does this by meeting her at a bar. And at that bar, he comes across someone that he used to know, who happened to be a bully from high school. And this guy calls him Novocaine, which is the nickname that he got in that middle school. And Novocaine is an anesthetic drug, something it is most commonly used in dental procedures to numb the area around a tooth. So, literally like the name, yeah. Makes you feel less pain. Also, the funny thing is, because of his name, this is like some funny pun or, yeah, so Novocaine, Novocaine. Pretty simple. And she feels sympathy for him. Sherry does. And she tricks this guy, this bully, into drinking a shot of hot sauce. And as things go, they bond over this moment, and she takes him home to her place, and they end up having sex. The next day that they are at work, well, this just so happens to be a Christmas movie, I think, because this next day takes place on Christmas. Well, in movie it takes place on Christmas. So the next day, they're at work, and there's a couple of guys dressed like Santas that stroll in, and they take control of the trust credit union there. I say it like that because I don't really know what that is, but I'm assuming it's some kind of financial institution in America. And so these guys, they have weapons, they take the place over, they're trying to rob it, and one of those guys, the leader, is someone named Simon Greenlee, and he ends up killing the manager, Nathan's boss, and he takes Sherry with him as a hostage. And Nathan, who's normally more of an introvert and more equipped with more gentle kind of things, finds himself in this heroic kind of not just a moment but journey really into becoming a hero, almost like a superhero, given the name and the ability of him to not feel any pain. And it leads to a lot of moments where he gets stuck and gets hurt. Not always too badly. Well, I'm gonna tell you about that later on. So, he feels strongly about Sherry, and he follows the robbers, and he does this by stealing the police car of the officer that the robbers shot on their way out. But they're actually with two cars, and he by accident follows the wrong car and ends up in a confrontation with this robber, Ben Clark, in a restaurant kitchen. And they have this confrontation like you see in most action movies when it comes to more improvisational kind of work like you'd see Jason Bourne do, for instance, in his movies, where he just uses anything, not just guns or knives, but like anything. For instance, there's a hot pan on a stove, and Nate just thinks, I'm not gonna feel anything. He just picks it up and does his thing with it, and he does it with a number of other objects, and one of those being the gun that gets stuck into a fryer, a loaded fryer, a hot ass fryer, and he just pulls it out and he shoots him, and he shoots this robber, and he this has a huge impact on him, and he is trying to recover from what's happening, but that doesn't happen that fast. So he shoots Ben Clark dead, and he notices on this robber a tattoo. And so Nate, as an introvert, does not have a lot of friends, but he asks the one friend he has, a guy named Roscoe Dixon. By the way, I'm gonna go over the people acting in this movie for a moment. So I said Jack Quaid plays Nathan Novocaine Kane, and then you have Amber Midthunder as Sherry Murgrave, and then the leader of the robbers is a guy as Simon Greenlee, who is played by Ray Nicholson, the son of the older Nicholson that you will know from the movie The Shining. And I will add here for a moment too that both Jack and Ray are kind of what you would call Nepo babies, but Nepo babies that are stepping into their own, basically. And they are doing this in a very interesting way, and there are others like that too that I will cover in other videos that are yet to come. And then maybe the most known person from this cast is the one that plays Roscoe Dixon, Nathan's online gaming friend, and that is Jacob Batalon, who you will know as Ned Leeds from the MCU Spider-Man movies. The guy in the chair, basically. Spider-Man's best friend. Peter Parker's best friend. It intersects with each other all the time. Spider-Man, Peter Parker. Anyway. Alright. Let's continue. So, Jacob Batalon plays Roscoe, and Nate asks Roscoe to find the artist that did that tattoo on Ben Clark's arm. Yeah. And so they find him. They find this artist, a guy named Zeno, a giant of a man. And Nathan, in another kind of gruesome moment, gets Ben Clark's address from the place, from this what do you call it? Maybe it's just a tattoo shop. I've never been to one, that's why I don't know exactly what it's really called. Yeah. And Nathan also calls one of his colleagues to get the address to Ben Clark's home by a pretty sneaky way, by using the loan documents. But Ben Clark happens to be this kind of prepper type, and his house is booby trapped to the hilt. And it's in those moments again where Nate gets just in pain a lot. He gets shot in the leg by a crossbow. He gets like a falling mace stuck to his back. He gets stuck in a rope and hanged upside down. And that is just part of it. And yes. So Nate is absolutely desperate after he got stuck in that rope snare, really. And so he's desperately calling for Roscoe's help, someone who's never met any kind of, well, what's the word? Really acknowledges him as probably his only friend. And so Roscoe finally says, like, okay, fine, I'll do it. I'll come help you out. But it turns out that this Ben Clark robber has a brother called Andre. And he starts to torture Nathan, who tries to fake that he feels pain. And that makes it very funny, despite being slightly bloody. And not too long after that, Roscoe arrives. And he's not what he makes seem online. Like in real life, many people do. Yeah, like bots online will pretend to be people, or people that will lie on dating sites about specific things. And Roscoe is that kind of person. He's a very online kind of person. But the two of them do get the drop on Andre and kill him even. And then the police of the San Diego Police Department show up. Officer Mincy Langston and her partner Coltrane Duffy. And they arrest Roscoe, who, along with Nathan, has made up a plan of getting out. Just, this is like those kinds of negotiating scenes that you sometimes see in police procedurals and in movies and such. And so someone wearing Nathan's clothes comes out. That's Roscoe, actually, while Nathan gets away in Roscoe's clothes, which happen to be all black and leathery, and that starts to make him look more like a badass and like a bad guy. That guy more like a bad boy, more. So that kind of never make care, daredevil kind of type, like the kind of guy all the ladies want. That kind of guy. And Nathan gets to has located Sherry and Simon at an auto shop. And when he comes there, he finally discovers that actually Sherry is Simon's adoptive sister, and apparently an accomplice to this heist. Because she originally intended to honey trap Nathan for the bank vault code that they need to get into the vault to get the way of money that what was it called again? A trust credit union. Yeah. But at this point, Nathan also learns that actually Sherry has developed real feelings for him. And was also just terrified at the way how her adoptive brother Simon killed the boss because that did happen back in this kind of bank. And she protests that Simon's trying to kill Nathan. But Simon ends up getting shot by the police that arrives by the older partner, Coltrane, while she and Nathan are arrested. Unfortunately, in that moment, Simon turns and kills Coltrane, but also wounds the other partner, Mincy, and he gets out in the ambulance that was for Nathan because he has gotten so bloodied up and wounded at this point. So he doesn't realize that he's in there, that Nathan is in the ambulance. And so Sherry is tracking Nathan and Simon with Mincy, who's just wounded, but in a police car. But you got shot in the stomach, and that hurts, but you can still live if you manage to survive this with adequate care. And they pursue the ambulance that... Oh, by the way, also Roscoe happens to be in the police car. Until they decide to split up, with Roscoe driving Mincy to the hospital, and she pursues the ambulance. And in the ambulance, Nathan finally breaks... Hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Nathan wakes up in the ambulance, and he manages to break free, and in interesting fashion does something to Simon that he did not see coming, because he uses the I gotta say this right. He defibrillates Simon. He basically shocks him with the electricity component used normally for getting people back from unconsciousness. Yes. And that makes the ambulance crash. But Simon, despite being wounded, gets out of the ambulance when they crash, right as Sherry arrives. And they fight, and Simon does something that it really shows I'm not going to say gory, but let's go with more bloody, because he breaks Nathan's arm. And in fact, that's maybe the most bloody moment of this, is that he breaks it in such a way that the bone of Nathan's arm is sticking out. And as that happens, Simon goes after Sherry. But she manages to fight him off, while Nathan finds himself some adrenaline and sticks himself with it, and then in brutal fashion uses that arm that has been broken and killing Simon with it by sticking it right through his jaw up to his head. So bloody as hell, almost to the point of making you throw up. And as that happens, he is so overwhelmed by everything that's happened and being wounded, and he finally succumbs and loses his consciousness, but does not die, luckily. And we get a little epilogue kind of thing where Nathan wakes up in a hospital, but unfortunately, because of having had to kill people, he has been sentenced to 6 months of house arrest and 5 years of probation instead of an even longer prison sentence, and that is because he saved the police officer. Well, they're saying he saved means he's live, but he did use the car of the police officer that the robbers shot when they got out of the this type of bank. And Roscoe and Sherry end up at his hearings to support him by giving character witnesses. That's why he got that reduced sentence. And then we get another time break to a year later, where Nathan is out of feeling a lot better. He doesn't have a broken bone, broken arm anymore, and he's visiting Sherry, who has always been has had been sentenced too because she also had a role in this robbery. And they're sitting together in like the cafeteria part of the same prison that they are at. And to make this a cute moment, he has the same. He has brought along a cherry pie, which she had introduced him to on their very first date, which also happens to be the first solid food that Nathan had eaten in a while. And we close to an end on this movie when they lead Sherry back to her cell. And when they're as they're in this cafeteria part, they're trying to keep it PG. They're trying not to do overly over the top stuff. And the guards of the prison are a bit against those things because, well, it's still somehow against the rules. But they lead Jerry back to her cell, and as that happens, Nathan looks back at her and smiling that he finally is in a better place. And that's where the movie ends. And so that makes Novocaine, for my grading, a good movie. Also because these are a couple of people besides Jacob Batalon that I've never seen in anything, so that makes it interesting. And also, that may be not fully true. I'm gonna look up for a brief moment. I do think I've seen Amber Midthunder in something else than this one. Just a second. I do think I've seen her in something. Yes. She did play Princess Yue in the live action version of Avatar The Last Airbender. That reminds me of something. Um, this has been part of a series about one genre, or a collection of genres, that being thriller, and this being part of mostly action, but also like the gory, bloody sides of action. And there's a couple more of those movies, like for instance the Kingsman movies, who that really show off a lot of blood. And there's a few more like those. Almost all the Tarantino movies are filled with blood, in an artful way, I will say though. There's a good couple of more like that. I'm gonna look it up for a second. Give me a moment. I guess along the lines of a lot of blood and a lot of action, the John Wick franchise does have a lot of that too. There's another one that I think of with two known actors, very well known from their action work, Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson in the Hitman's Bodyguard series. And there's a lot of blood in there too. So that's good for you to know. Okay. Um, so these are two series. Sorry, uh, two franchises rather that have a lot of those same things. A lot of blood, a lot of action, a lot of talent. Um, and I know those two also they get a little stuck. Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson in kind of like the same kind of role over time. Although I wouldn't say that really about Samuel L. Jackson, someone who has been in more than 100 projects. Um, just is just so damn good. I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of stuff I have seen him in. And also the thing with them playing like that, and there are other actors like that too. They they get so comfortable in their kind of skin that it's hard to not look at that. Because if you do something for a long time that you happen to be good at, you become even better at it. You become really talented. And that is what probably makes people watch those movies. Like for Ryan Reynolds, one of the movies I enjoy a lot from him is Free Guy, the sci-fi action, almost video game kind of thing that he made with Sean Levy, same guy who he did the most recent Deadpool movie with Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine. Yes. Okay. I think that is it for right now. Thank you so much for listening to me and listening to what I had to say. I hope you have a lovely time. Thank you so much. And please like and subscribe and share this with a friend if you like. And I hope to see you in the next video, in the next episode of the FWX podcast. I've been Frederik. Thank you very much. Until then.